Smooth 98.1, love music, love life. This is Lagos Talks with me, Zibby. Yes, Lagos and beyond. We are talking. And this morning, we're talking about addressing the housing needs in Lagos. Would love for you to be a part of the conversation. As always, you can send your thoughts across to us via WhatsApp. The number is 0809 4440981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. And we're streaming live on our YouTube channel. So you can catch that live stream on YouTube. And also you can post a comment on there as well. The channel is Smooth981. Don't forget to subscribe. And I can take your calls as well. I'd love to take your calls actually. So I'll let you know the number to call. It is 01 4489 981. 01 4489 981. And don't forget for your calls to come through, you have to dial 02 and then 01 4489 981. So I guess I can say 02 01 4489 981. I have a guest joining me this morning. He's a real estate consultant and a property lawyer. My guest this morning is Ayobayo Babade. Good morning, Ayo, and welcome to Lagos Talks.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you very much for having me. I'm really delighted to be here.
Awesome, awesome.
Mhm.
Thank you. We're talking about these problems of affordable housing in Lagos. Now, in the past few weeks, we know that the government has made efforts to clear out certain areas that ideally should not be inhabited by any man, woman, or child. We've seen people create living spaces under bridges in Lagos at various points along canals, basically areas that are considered unsafe. And this is something that happens continuously. Every now and then something springs up, the government goes, makes some clearance, and in some cases, a short while later, people are back to living in these places. Why do we keep having these problems come back? And what is your view on this entire situation, Ayo?
Yeah, thank you very much. So the basic thing is there are three basic human needs. Clothing, housing, and then shelter is one of them. Food, clothing, and shelter. Shelter is one of them, and so it's a basic human need. Everyone needs somewhere to put their head on, somewhere to go to at the end of the day. And so what it looks like differs from person to person, and affordability is also another issue. So it's a basic need, and then affordability is the next thing. It's something that they can afford, something that is within their financial capacity. And so those are the two basic things that pushes individuals to live in such places. And then generally, homelessness is a global phenomenon. And when people do not have basic homes to stay, and then fields, shanties, under bridges, become an attractive place for them to stay. And then interestingly, in those settings, it's not like it's just free for all. They have some form of leadership or control in those settings. So you go either to the slums or you go under the bridges. They have like an overlord or like a landlord that maintains like some law and order in that place. And so it's a very interesting setting, but the two major drivers are: one is a basic need. Everyone needs somewhere to call a home. And two, not everybody can afford the regular home or the regular place that we all stay. And so the next alternative for them is those either shanties or under bridges where they can afford to stay there. And that's pretty much why it's there. So even if they are sent away from somewhere, they go to the next available place and make that place a home, depending when they're able to gather means of sustenance to be able to afford a regular house in the city. So it's just because of those two factors that a lot of people have no choice but to stay there. So if they have a choice, they will be able to stay in other places. And though we've done a few things with a number of slums and shelters, and a lot of people there are people facing some form of difficulty or the other. Um, Other people who were probably internally displaced from other states coming to Lagos and looking for a place to settle in, and then they stay there. Or there are people who are facing some challenges of life. People who lost job, lost their house, and they're like, okay, there's nowhere for them to stay. And then they can stay in those places while meeting their daily need, and then having some form of payments in those structures. So those are the drivers of things like that. And that's the last hope that most of them have, to have somewhere they can call a place to stay. at the end of their day's work. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that, Ayo. Now,
Mhm,
from the reports, some of these people who live under bridges are paying as much as 250,000 naira a year to
mhm,
some faceless individuals or groups of
mhm,
people as
mhm,
rent. Now,
mhm,
we understand that affordable housing is a challenge, but if
mhm,
someone can afford 250,000 naira to
mhm.
pay under the bridge, are there areas in Lagos where they can actually get a real home and pay that amount? And then, more importantly, who are these landlords or bridge lords?
Okay, yeah. So there are a number of things. So one is you are looking at the average cost in that area vis-a-vis where they are staying. And then, so those are the things I need to look at. So, like you say, people see places like the Ikates, the under so the average rent in those areas will be way more than the cost of that space
Mm,
under those bridges. And so that's one thing to look out for there. And then there's also a number of things around it. So, like I said, it's an interesting system that operates. They have more flexible payment plan. So yes, you can total up to 250 in a year. Some of them can be paying daily, some can be paying weekly, some can be paying monthly. So there are different structures that makes it attractive for someone to stay. So even though at the end of the year, it's a large amount, but just like a daily amount, some pay a monthly amount, and then if you just gather it and they just pay it once a year, then they do those landlords or individuals that like I say, it's like most of those places are communities of their own. They have their internal policing structure or system of policing. They
mm.
have their internal, so it's like it's a community of its own. From the little we have been able to do from working in those communities, and so it's a lot there that they're not as faceless as we think, because there are people who they go to either daily or weekly to give some remittances to, and then they maintain some form of security and serenity of those areas. But it's a lot, and then there's a need for the government to do what they do, because sadly, it's just like I said, the last bus stop or the last hope that they are to have something close to a roof over their head.
Wow. We're
Mm.
speaking with our guest this morning, Ayobayo Babade. He's a real estate consultant and property lawyer. So, Ayo, what does this say about the state of housing in Lagos?
Wow. It's a very huge challenge. In general, even though the data are here and there as to what the actual numbers are, the housing deficit hovers around 22 million units in Nigeria as a whole, and Lagos that as a huge part of that. And so there's a lot of housing deficit. People need housing and people need affordable houses for them to stay in. And so that reflects the state that people are looking for anywhere that is close to a roof over their head for them to stay. And so that tells you the pressure on housing in Lagos, particularly for lower priced housing. The one beds, the two beds, the three beds that are affordable for people to acquire and to move in. And so it's a lot of challenge in that area that yet there's a lot of things that has been done, a number of policies that's been done. I know there's the Lagos State government initiative of introducing monthly rental payment so that it make affordability of housing easier and then people can more easily afford houses. Those plans are in place or those initiatives are in place, but it's a lot on all sides. For example, for the landlords, for example, there are many property landlords that after receiving the first year rent, getting the second or subsequent year's rent can often be a headache. And so if it's monthly, how will the second, third, fourth month's rent be collected and all that? So there's a lot of challenge with almost every policy that comes into the housing space that has to be well thought out so that you're not causing more problems by solving one problem. Because it's an industry, the landlord, for example, equally needs to make profit from what he has built. He has spent money to build the house and needs to recoup his expenses. But we have seen cases of tenants saying, okay, after the first year, for subsequent years, they're like, I don't have, and the place has to go to give them notices and then go to court. And then after all that, but even getting something after going all the way to court is limited. So those are things that happens in reality on both sides. So yes, it's the landlord aspect, so the tenant, and trying to see how well we can solve that. So it's a lot of pressure on land in Lagos and a lot of pressure on housing in Lagos. And there are very few houses for a lot of people who desire to live in them for an affordable amount.
We're speaking with Ayobayo Babade. He's a property lawyer and also he is a real estate consultant. And speaking about housing in Lagos, the problem of people building and living in slum areas and frankly unlivable areas like under bridges as well, and the government's plans to evacuate people and what next for the people who have lost their homes. Can we really call those homes, Ayo? Their
Yeah. So
dwellings.
I'm just calling it living spaces, but
Okay.
like I said, the basic concept is for them to have a roof over their head, and so whatever it looks like from A to B differs, and for a large number of them, that's where they call home. That's where they after they also on the streets or do whatever, that's where they go to rest their head, and that's home to them. And so it can be in the worst of shapes for people, but to some people, that's where they call their home. That's where they have there are communities or shanties we've been into where they have, you'll be amazed at what you see there. They have things that have a semblance of nightclubs. You have things that have a semblance of a bar or restaurant. And so they have their own community there that
Mm.
they make it to be as comfortable as it is for themselves. And so those are things that are there. So for us, we may say, well, are these really homes? But to them, that's what they call homes. That's where they go to after they add this job to rest their head and to meet with their family. And it's a community, like I said. So those are friends, brothers, sisters, and then they live together there. So it's what they call their own.
All right, thanks for that. You're listening to Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side. Please.
No problem.
Okay, we're going on. It's Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1, 18 minutes past 9 a.m. We have a guest with us, a property lawyer and real estate consultant. Our guest is Ayobayo Babade. We're talking about addressing housing needs in Lagos and would love for you to be a part of the conversation. If you've got a thought or a question, would love to hear from you. The WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. And don't forget, when you're calling, you need to dial 02 and then 0144899981. Let's go on to the phone lines. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Saji. Go right ahead, please.
Let's go back to the time of our parliamentary, when we have regional system of governance. I'm talking about Lagos, for instance. If you remember Surulere, we have the issue of LEDB, and where houses have plans or an area has the plan. If it's a bungalow, it's bungalow all through. If it's a one-story building, it's one-story building all through. And all is demarcated and well followed. But nowadays, due to our people, the people compromises, that's the people in office, their issues with certificates or plans to people. It's no more supervised that anybody just put up structure. I'm talking of my area where I reside within Festac. You will be surprised that now, formally, we have all cables buried. There is no surface cable whatsoever that you will see in Festac. But now is the in thing. Because people tend that they are ill-gotten money, they can purchase anywhere. Can you imagine that NEPA, that PACN, had plans and they know where all these cables are located and buried? To an extent that when we do have board, some are trained to people's individual sitting room, and definitely they can't do anything concerning it, that you will see that marble all these things. We do not follow any aspect of plans, building plans whatsoever, particularly in Lagos and others. And people do turn their eyes aside and let these people build. Then later the government will come and make demolition. Come to Festac and see the type of buildings that are put up that are not compliant with what is done. And also people put up stores anywhere. Everywhere is just littered. But when the government now come up with their hammer, we will now start talking something that is not relevant, and we start blaming the government. But people should look. If you have the money, proper money, you will see that people, before they put up structure, they go into inquiry and find out before the aspect of act of the government comes into play. Let's take, for instance, the new law that is coming up now that people, if a demolition is to be carried out, the person has to pay for it. People are already having corners. Even I watched a station this morning on TV saying, okay, if I'm not able to afford the money to pay for my demolition, then is there any time frame? Is there any time bound? Look, people will look. The government should look inward and say, well, if your house is marked for demolition, anything within the premises of the house, certainly the house cannot be sold. Anything can be sold within the premises so that to afford the demolition, you don't expect taxpayers' money to be paid to demolish things. So all these aspects, and also the government also should try as much as possible to put up housing estates where it will be totally controlled so that people will have affordable housing. I remember in Lagos, this way, sort of Jakonde and all others, and even now, it's still being done, but it should be affordable to every individual. Thank you, Ayobayo, and look at this process and buttress more on it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Soji, for calling and sharing your thoughts. 0144899981. That is the number to call. Don't forget, you need to dial 02 and then 0144899981. Don Kelvin via WhatsApp says, some of the people under the bridge actually live there so they can meet up with work on the island rather than run the risk of transversing to the island every day. If the government makes affordable housing available on the island, a lot of people would not need those spaces under the bridge. Let's go on to the phone lines. Good morning. Good morning. Name and location, please. All right, Ibukun, go right ahead.
Okay, yeah. I can't even call it a bed space. You have a lying space where there's a mat or something. So there is a serious housing deficit. And, like any other city in the world, as you just pointed out, there will be homelessness and there will be slums. However, for the average person, what can the government do to help? If you're talking about monthly rent and trying to make it secure for people that rent houses, it's quite simple. You change the law. Make sure that it's going to stay monthly, but then the law would say that you have to have like a security deposit, maybe a 3-month or a 6-month security deposit with the landlord. This is the landlord's comfort. This means you also have to change the laws with regards to how you evict people in court. You can have special courts that can deal with the issue of tenancy very quickly because they pay for everything. Have you paid? You've not paid. Okay, move out. You don't have to go for 6 months notice because it happens, and you're getting, probably about this experience of the lawyer. People will go to court, tenants will go to court because the protest is dragged out. They are going to court not because they believe in their right, but to stop the landlord evicting them. And by the time it's getting towards their judgment, the landlord will come to the compound one day, and the man has packed out and he abandons the case. So at the end of the day, do you want to spend more money looking for somebody that has run away? Or do you want to focus your effort on getting a new tenant to join you? So we have to look at the whole system together, holistically, to ensure that both the law and the practice work together. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ibukun, for calling. Thank you, Ibukun, for calling and sharing your thoughts. Now, just coming off what Ibukun had stated, sometime this year, I believe it was in March, the special assistant to the governor had disclosed that the state was definitely going to enforce this monthly rent scheme, either by the end of the year or by early next year. How feasible is this, Ayobayo?
Yeah, and I think Ibukun alluded to some of the issues that we said, and maybe I said it earlier as well, that yes, it's visible, but the challenges are there, and the people are really the issue, because a large number of tenants, like I said, in general, financial default is very large in the country. You have people, for example, who loan money from loan apps and not pay, and then and the people who rent houses and they don't pay. And then so you now have those people, you want to give them monthly rent, possibility of them paying every month. It's also a challenge. But there are like there are things that government can put in place to probably reduce the rate of default. And then there are different options that are there. One is you can have a system where where the money can be deducted at source. Since you have the BVN where all your accounts can be linked together, you can have a system where if you are doing something like that monthly, as the funds enter into the account, it's an automatic standing order to your landlord for those months to be deducted. So that, and a number of things that are some of the options that one can put in place, at the security deposit options and all that. But still, the more ingenious you are with solutions, the more ingenious people who want to default will be with their own system. And then so it's more of the people already are we as a people to do monthly rent payments. And then, like I said, but once the system is robust, so that you have that's in place, and then you have a special court for tenancy, so that you don't go to the normal route of court where you spend averagely 1.5 years on a court case. That would equally reduce the amount of have special code that you go there, maximum 1 or 2 sittings, you go there, you've not paid your rent, vacate from the premises, they give an order, the court believes go there, eject the person. If there is that speed of ejection, I feel default to be low, because a lot of people don't prioritize rent. See somebody owing rent, and then I'm not saying you should not progress, but buying a new car or owing rent and then throwing a lavish party while I know you paid your rent. And then so there are people who don't prioritize rent among their spendings or expenditure. But once there's a quick eviction process where you know that if you don't pay your rent, you can be out on the street the next day, I think people would prioritize rent and would pay that, and then the monthly scheme may now work. But with the current court system we have and the current way it is, a monthly system will just increase the number of defaults and the number of cases in court and the length of time for people to be ejected. Yeah.
Now, a major criticism people have of the government actions in clearing up some of these areas that have been converted to living spaces is, where do you expect the people to go? What alternatives have you provided? Nobody wants to live there. They're living there because they can't find where to live. What are your thoughts on the processes that have followed the eviction, and subsequently what should follow?
Yeah, so it can be touching and it can be very sad. And that's why it's a very delicate topic, particularly for those who have been in that condition. Because like I said earlier, that's the last hope they have towards getting a place to call a home within Lagos. And so it's a very difficult situation for anybody to be in. There are some things to note there, which is, one is, before they get there is why, and that's why they need to be, for government to be proactive, that as those places are being built, there should be a task force to ensure that they don't come up in the first place. And so that's like the starting point, because after people have called it a home and it's sending them away, it's where else will they go to? Because one point is that they ought not to be there in the first place, let alone looking for an alternative place and for them to go to. And like I've been said, it's a global phenomenon. There isn't any place in the world where there is no issue with homelessness as it is, and people just look for where is any space I can see. I can put a tent or I can put something there and call the place to rest my head is where people normally gravitate towards or go to. And so that's one thing there. So once they send them away from there, they'll go to the next available space and build that same community up there again, and then life goes on. So it's a very delicate, because I think a large number of them even know that where we are staying is a shanty, it's a temporary accommodation. There are some who are there for as a stopgap in 3-6 months to get their life back together, and then they move to regular accommodation. There are some who are going through some conditions that maybe problems of mental health issues where they need a bit of more care and all that. So there's a whole lot that makes someone have that place as a home. And so that's why it's something that has to be holistically handled to see how best to assist in that move. So yes, though it reflects in their living in that condition as housing, but the issues that people in that condition faces vary. So, but there are some who, like was said, who that's the closest place to where they are working, and so they're just staying there, depending when they're able to gather enough funds to rent a good accommodation in that place close to their office and all that. So there are different categories of people that stay in those places. So there are some who are from there, they move to regular houses, but there are some who have been there for years and just moved from shanty to shanty until God knows when. Yeah.
We're speaking with Ayobayo Babade, real estate consultant and property lawyer. It's Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1. Stay with us, the conversation continues.
Into Smooth 98.1.
Okay, we'll be back on in just about under a minute.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay. You're listening to Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1. It's Zibby here, and my guest this morning is Ayobayo Babade. We're speaking about the issue of housing in Lagos, affordable housing for the residents. As always, we'd love to get your thoughts, so please give us a ring. Let us know your thoughts. The WhatsApp number to send your messages to is 0809 440 981. You can also tweet at smooth981 or give us a call 014489 Right? Don't forget the 02 and then 041189 981. That is the number to call. So Ayo, now over the past year or so, and this has happened continuously, people who have found affordable housing for themselves, people who have even gone on to build houses or buy property, have found their homes being demolished as well as a result of not having proper planning permissions in certain areas. Um, how did we arrive at this situation where someone can get a piece of land, build a property on it, and then a few years down the line, a few months down the line, they're told this is not a place that you should have been able to live in?
Yes, and then those are very touching issues that you raise, because like we all know, first of all, houses are one of the most expensive purchases people make in their lifetime. Some putting their life savings, their pension, all they've got into a property, and so seeing that go down or being demolished is not anyone's desire. It's the worst nightmare anyone can ever face. However, there are a number of things that needs to be noted. One is, before anyone buys any property, do your due diligence. And then how did we get here? A number of reasons. So one is greed on the part of a number of people, on the part of those building those houses, on the part of government regulators that should stop them from doing that, and then on the part of a number of people. Because one is, there are certain setbacks that you should have for different things. And so those places are not meant to be sold in the first place to anybody. That's the starting point. But sadly, you see landowning families who want to maximize their land, and they will sell every square meter of land they have to unsuspecting buyers. And that is the starting point in most cases. So you see people who don't know that there's a setback and would go ahead and then purchase that piece of property, and then who do not have it. Also, there's no regulation, there's no government document on it. They just have a deed of assignment with the landowning family or with the person that sold it to them, go ahead and build without permits, and then years down the line, issues occur, and those houses have to be brought down. And so that's why it's key at the point of purchasing, consult professionals so they can do the proper things to be done before you go ahead and build. Not every land you see is good to be for you to buy, let alone build. And so that's why it's key for one to start from there. So there are a number of things that there are times when, for example, officials know that this place has issues, and they go there to either market or to warn the developers or those building it, and some of them will be like, oh, since I'll just sell it, the liability will pass on to whoever it is, and then they will give them some money, and then those officials turn their eye away temporarily until when the government itself steps into it to take those decisive actions. And it can be it's not that it can be, it is very, very painful to see. So the first important thing is that at the point of purchase, consult professionals so that you know what you are buying, and the buildable area of land that you have to build. Those are things that are key that everyone needs to know at the point of purchase. Then when you want to build, also get approvals, and then you'll be sure that there'll be minimal issues. And then that's starting point. So second is the fact that even with best efforts, there are times when development may come to an area that may necessitate some houses to be brought down. But in those cases, you'll be entitled to compensation from the government for this. So, for example, there are houses that are along the Fort Milan Bridge axis. They've been written to that, yes, development would make those houses to go down, but there'll be a compensation for them. Or houses or properties that are along the coastal road or along areas where development will get to. Once you have your documentation with the government, one will be compensated for it. But there are times, so those are just things that one should note on that topic.
Well, now, when it comes to housing, what is the role of the property developers, particularly in Lagos? Because every now and then you see some real estate pages and they're advertising homes or pieces of land, and some of the prices are outrageous. Like most regular hardworking folk cannot even afford to buy those properties. So I wonder, what can be done? What kind of partnership can these private developers, the landowners, and even the government come to that can actually help to solve this problem? Because I'm
Yeah.
sure the goal of getting those houses and developing them is for people to move into them. But if people can't afford them,
Yeah, so it's a very deep and interesting debate. So one is, if people are not buying them, people would not build them. And so people are buying them. But statistics are very interesting. So 80% of the houses are owned by 20% of the population. So we have, obviously, in a society, we have more tenants than landlords. And so that's the starting point of the debate. So for majority of people, those houses are not affordable. But for some people, they easily pick it up. And so that's why most of those houses get sold out even before they finish building in the first place. So those things occur, but there are a number of things that can be done to bring down the property prices. And because one is that a large number of materials used to build as at today are largely imported. And so a large number of what we use, from doors to tiles to almost everything you use, are imported. And so there's a lot of dollar pressure, there's a lot of importation. And so based on what the price of dollar is saying, and that's what the price of the eventual houses would be. And so that's one aspect to look at it. Second, we can see a major ingredient to build any house is cement. And so the price of cement also plays a major role in the eventual price of property. And so that's why, because you use cement to do your building blocks, use the cement to plaster it together, use the cement to join it together. So cement is a very major factor in that formula as well. And then, moving or transportation is also a big deal. From supplier to the site is also, those are all those factors contributing to the eventual price. And so not just the developers alone have to come to the table on this, but everyone in the built industry have to be on the same page. And so they've given a number of proposals that's come out on this. One is, if we look at those, that at times people have looked at alternative building materials as an option, but still there isn't really a clearly affordable alternative building material to use, because even the other alternatives, if you do the math together, are equally as expensive, sometimes even more expensive than building blocks and cement. And so those are things that we are looking at. Second, we're looking at using more locally sourced materials that are of good quality, that one can use to finish houses, that would have the same quality, if not even better than imported options that are there. But we also have the issue of a lot of people who would readily purchase things that are branded foreign or imported, as opposed to buying things that are branded locally made. So, like, you have your say, oh, it's Italian tiles, you have Turkish doors, you have this, and then you're like, oh, I can pay so much for it because of Amien, all this, as opposed to saying, oh, this is Ijebu tiles, this is Abeokuta doors. And people will be like, oh, I would like to pay so much for that. So those are things we need to, as a society, come into and to patronize locally made, and then we can bring down the prices of houses in general. But those are just some of my thoughts on that, on how we can make housing more affordable. Yeah.
I'm curious about this. How effective has the Federal Housing Authority been?
Okay, so yes, the federal Nigeria is very large, and so the Federal Housing Authority, they are doing the best they can, but they can do more. And then there are a number of things. The issues that we have in Nigeria as a whole affects every sector, including housing. And so there are times where there's been the partnership with the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, where everyone who is working, you would contribute to the National Housing Fund. And so after contributing for 6 months, you are meant to be entitled to get a loan of up to 15 million for you to purchase a house or build your house or renovate your house, as the case may be. And so those are as policies and structures put in place. But we've had issues of people trying to get into those government scheme, and the Nigerian problem inhibits them from being able to. So the people have applied for years, but they are not able to access those funds because of the Nigerian problem that we have in a number of in the country as a whole, and it affects the housing sector. So yes, they can do much more to ensure that there are enough housing units around and the country. Even the state housing corporations like Lagos, we have the LSDPC that can, once there's a lot of government involvement, like one of the callers said, if there's a lot of government involvement, when government pushes in much more housing units into the space, then the laws of demand and supply would come into play, and then the price would come down naturally. But because there is no active government participation in that space at an affordable rate, then we are having some of the problems that we have. Yeah, so like I just say, it's a deeper issue than I'm just paraphrasing, but these are just my thoughts on that at the moment.
All right, we've got about maybe just about a minute to go, and I can't let you leave without asking you this, Ayo. We anticipate that there probably will be more evacuations and demolitions happening across the state. If you were to advise the Lagos state government as a consultant in this field, what would you say to them?
Okay, so so there are a number of things that one can say. So the first is to have a watchdog system, such that once somebody is building in a part of the state they're not meant to build into, there's a system to ensure that that doesn't occur in the first place, so that one doesn't go ahead spending so much, and then after so many years, the demolition would now occur. So I like to do the preventive approach than the aftermath. Then secondly is to do a lot more publicity before those things are carried out. How do I mean? So one is publicize that these certain areas are issues. So the same way you publicize the number of other things, publicize the emissions to occur, so that people are given enough notice. So the national delegates are there online that these areas would be affected, and so that those who are there have enough time to plan, to prepare, to move. Because a large number of some of those parties are they're currently affected by tenants. So tenants have that information, and they can readily move away before, so that it doesn't occur where the tractors are there and then people are trying to get their loads out, and then there could be injury and a number of things occurring in those spaces. But much more, I try the prevention approach that before people build, let everyone be aware that these areas, these houses, it should not be there in the first place, and so that everybody knows, and so that once anything occurs, people like you were informed, but you chose not to eat, and then and this is so we can probably, and these are things that technologically done. You can have a publicly accessible system or virtually or online, such that anybody can access and say, okay, is this area buildable on? And so that people are able to know where, and as simple as you can make it green zone or red zone, that once your house falls within the red zone, you can build it. And so you know already that you have a publicly accessible free system where you can check if this land is buildable enough in the starting point, so that it's open to everybody. And okay, you built on a red zone, and whatever happens there, then it's on you, not on the government, so that we can be responsive enough in that way, such that we are able to mitigate or minimize this occurring. Because even on everybody, it's a lot of cost. Like even the government, it's a lot of money trying to demolish houses. On the person that it's a lot of money to put up this, and it is waste on all sides. And so it's best to avoid that occurring than to be taking a measure afterwards. I know I spent more than 1 minute on that answer. So thank you very much for having me. There's a lot in this sector, and then I was actually to come back to
absolutely, and I would love to have you come back again. It just feels like we've spoken a little bit on the surface, but we can, there's so much more.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ayobayo Babade, real estate consultant and property lawyer, for being on Lagos Talks this morning with us.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
Do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.
Oh, you're listening in on this frequency.
Thanks, Ayo. I'll send you a message, yeah?
No problem. You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. My guest, Madam Fashola, as well.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.